Welcome to yet another retrospective, and this time I decided to hop into a series that you guys have been asking me to cover for a long time, and that is the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games. This week I'll be talking about Crash Bandicoot 1, so let's quit the jibber jabber and hop straight into things. Crash Bandicoot is the love child of Naughty Dog, a company founded in 1984 as Jam Software, and later changing their name to Naughty Dog in 1989. The founders Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin started their company as independent game developers, and after some success with Rings of Power and Way of the Warrior, Universal Interactive Studios swooped in and picked them up to develop 3 games for them. At this time, Mark Cerny, a man who had huge ties with Sonic 2, went to Naughty Dog with an idea. He asked the team if they could develop a character-based 3D platformer game that took full advantage of all of the PlayStation's new technology. And with that, Crash Bandicoot was born. I personally didn't play Crash 1 at its release since I was more of a Nintendo guy at the time, but Crash was a huge release for the Sony platform at the time, smashing reviews and bringing the platforming genre to a new generation, making Crash the unspoken mascot of Sony at the time. Starting Crash off, we get a bit of a story explaining that Doctor Cortex and Doctor Brio have used their Evolvo Ray to create superhuman strength animals on the islands near Australia. But when Dr. Cortex decides to use his Cortex Vortex on Crash, it fails and allows Crash to escape out the window. With his never really mentioned girlfriend up next for experimentation, Crash decides to make his way back through the 3 islands to hunt down Cortex and save his girlfriend. Or sister. Or mom? I really don't know, the game never says. Oddly enough, for one of the first games in the series and one of the first Crash Bandicoot games, the controls aren't crazy bad. Though they do have their issues since when Crash 1 came out, analog wasn't exactly fleshed out back then, and controlling games with the D-pad was kind of still the norm. Crash feels good moving around, but I would not bet my video game collection on being able to make a jump in this game. The camera always seems to find itself in the worst positions for finding where exactly you are in the plane of existence that is Crash's 3D space. So you will find yourself landing jumps in a spiky pit of death often in the later parts of the game. But that in itself is probably where most of the difficulty in this game comes from. The platforming is extremely difficult in the later levels and have you jumping over tons of death pits or landing on tiny ledges in dark rooms, and it can make you rage quit pretty quickly. And most of the enemies are not too threatening to your adventure unless they're placed somewhere annoying like where you can't see or on a tiny ledge. But fear not, you probably won't find yourself hitting a game over screen, since this game loves to hand you lives like they're Whoppers on a Wednesday. Especially if you're going for 100% and finding the secret areas. You can sometimes find a dumb amount of lives. But if you aren't very well versed in the art of platforming, you may need some of these lives going through the 100% playthrough. While playing the game, you will find many boxes scattered throughout the levels, including basic crates, Aku Aku crates, arrow crates, bounce crates, checkpoint crates, 1-up crates, and TNT crates. And to 100% the game, you will need to break every single one of these bad boys. And at the end of the level, if you don't die, you will be rewarded with a gem. But you may have some issue getting these crates. For instance, some levels need the rarer color gems to get all the boxes, which makes for some backtracking to earlier levels once you do get these colored gems. Another issue is TNT crates, since touching these bad boys will cause a huge explosion, destroying all the boxes around them. But what you don't know is if you touch these boxes, then get far enough away, they won't blow up any other boxes around them, which may cause you to not get the gem at the end of the level. Also, if you die at any point through the level, you can't get the gem and will have to restart the level all over again to get that gem. And the last issue is backtracking, since some boxes have to be done with backtracking, and finding them with this camera angle just does not work, and the game is definitely not designed to do that. Also, there are a few interesting mechanics throughout the game, also including bonus rounds that you can enter by finding 3 tokens throughout a stage. But more interestingly is that the only way to save the game for some reason is to beat these bonus rounds. Meaning that if you want to keep your progress saved, you either have to beat these bonus rounds or jot down the decently long codes that they give you to get back to the level you were on. Crash also isn't the strongest character to ever live, so touching any of the enemies in the game will instantly kill you, unless you hit one of the Aku Aku boxes throughout the levels. And they will give you an extra hit before you die, or if you collect all 3 of them, they will give you invulnerability for a short period of time. All of these things lead to a pretty decent gameplay experience, and most of the bad qualities to it kind of lead to the age of the game and it being the first of the series. But what it doesn't make up for is pretty bad bosses. All the bosses in this game are pretty boring and not really memorable at all, giving a basic hit them 3 times the same way and they die kind of vibe, with Dr. Brio being the only boss I thought was kind of interesting. The music, on the other hand, is fantastic and would give us some pretty awesome classics that have lasted through the whole series and I still remember to this day. Like these ones specifically. The ending of the game is a bit interesting, seeing as if you collect all of the gems and reach 100%, you can skip the boss fight with Cortex and just leave on a bird, making for a pretty anticlimactic ending. But it is the only game I know of that you can skip the ending boss like that, so I guess it's pretty cool too. But if you aren't the completionist type, you can always just kick Cortex's butt and save your grim mom sister that way. I don't know. Crash Bandicoot 1 was a fantastic game for the time, boasting new 3D platforming and showing off some fantastic graphics for the PlayStation. But it hasn't aged too well. It has some clunky controls and it's definitely not the Crash Bandicoot game I would recommend new people to the series to play. It is fun to go back to and enjoy, but I don't find myself wanting to do that too often. But it did sell very well and paved the way for Crash Bandicoot 2 to be made by Naughty Dog. But we won't be talking about that until next week. So until then, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. I'll make sure to reply to as many comments as I can. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. I just have to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, I would not be making videos still. So a big thanks to Jeremy Olivo, Rob LaLiberty, Brad Moore, Andre Drulard, Thomas Bethel, and the YouTubers Cult Gamer Alliance, Cray Trey, What a James, After End Media, and The Game Plank.